Hey everyone, what's going on? It's a very fun and exciting day. It's episode number 1 of Let's Talk Solar. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is David Rosa. I'm located here in Houston, Texas, and for the past 5 years, I have been helping homeowners eliminate their light bill and take control over the cost to power their home. I have helped hundreds of homeowners across 5 different states, and as recent as June 2019, I became a first-time homeowner. Now, at this point, I realized that there wasn't a lot of information or a place for homeowners to go and find everything that they're looking for without entering their information. And we don't want people at our home or someone calling us every 15 minutes. So that's when I decided to come up with the idea of giving you guys a mini documentary of my installation process to give you an inside look of everything involved for you to go solar from beginning to end, such as a site assessment, so that way you know if your home qualifies, how I size my system, as well as, everything involved with the operations, such as getting the permits approved with the city, state, county, your HOA applications, the utility company's net metering program, and everything else involved before even putting hardware into the home itself. From there, we went over to the solar engineer with a digital rendering of what the placement of the array would look like to maximize the production and know the numbers for the next 25 years. After that, I decided to go ahead and upgrade over to a backup battery. I decided to go with the Tesla Powerwall 2. So there was a little bit more involved with my installation. So we had to do an additional site survey to know the electrical components, where the location we're going to be at. After that, my home had the original roof, which was back in 1996, so it was about 24 years old. It did need to get replaced before I could even put panels up there, so I also had to do that. Then of course I filmed the installation process itself. I do have several trees around my home that I need to trim, so it was a whole process. It was about a 62 day from beginning to end, and at this point I realized, I got a lot of content. Let me go ahead and see what I could do for you guys and upload it so that way people could see it. And so sometime back in November, that's when the idea of this podcast came to mind. I've been using the phrase "Let's Talk Solar" for quite a while on Instagram. And, so now I decided, I'm maybe onto something with the slogan. I came up with the hat, the design that you see here. From there, a few people saw the logo, they liked it. And I was like, you know what? Let's go ahead and get started with this podcast. So that's how this came about. I also been involved with the Houston Renewable Energy Group. I'm also the communications director, so I'll handle their online presence as well. With that, I really enjoy doing that because it gets me outside of solar and gets to interact with other people, fans of renewable backgrounds, whether they have industry background, regardless of they're employed by it, just a fanatic of it, or want to learn about it, or trying to see how they could be involved with it. So I love doing that, So I've been involved with HREG now for a little bit, about a year and a half. Last January is when I became the communications director. And I personally work for Sunpro Solar. I've been with them now for about 5 years. I originally started with a different company, and then back in late 2015, they were looking to start a footprint here in the Houston area from their Louisiana office. From there, I came to the company because I'm a Spanish speaker. I had sales background, and of course, I knew the city. I had other in-home sales experience and other skills that made me very successful for this job. So when I got hired, we didn't know what to expect. There wasn't a big footprint here in the Houston area. We're used to cheap energy rates as well. So the hardest part about solar at that time was, product awareness, showing people, there's a different method to doing what we consider normal. That was where the biggest obstacle was. Now, at that time, rates were about, on average, 9 to 11 cents a kilowatt rate. So some homeowners had an out-of-pocket difference to go solar. Other homeowners were saving money depending on what their utility rates were. So, that's where we started little by little, and now we are where we're at. And it's been an amazing journey. I've seen a lot, done a lot, learned a lot, heard a lot. But obviously there's a lot of that I still don't know that I'm seeking to learn, and that way bring it to you guys. And so that's how I came about with this podcast, Let's Talk Solar, with this YouTube channel. So I'm very excited about it. Show you guys, a lot of stuff that's going to come. I'll have about 10 episodes already lined up in the works with the guest stars as well. So we may be moving at a fast pace. It's going to be very interesting to see how it goes. I want to go ahead and give you guys, the knowledge as well as entertainment, as well as something for the guys in the industry. So put all this together and hopefully have a great channel for you guys. I'm really looking forward to it. I do have family members with a solar system as well. So, I probably want to tell you guys how they went solar. Back in 2016, I presented my parents the solar system for them. Now, at that time, my parents were in their mid 60s. Now, a little bit of background information on me. I'm the youngest out of 6. I have 14 nephews and nieces. I come from a big family. Now, I grew up in the Houston Heights in a 1,600 square feet home with 6 rooms. It sounds like a lot of rooms, but you only need so much room with 1,600 square feet. So anyways, we grew up with an average light bill about $400. Now, my older brother, who's about 10 years older than me, I always pay the light bill. Now, I remember one time I was 16 years old. I was working at Wendy's down the street from where I grew up at. And so he opens up a summer light bill, $720. This was about a 2 weeks paycheck of his. He was very mad. I had maybe an $80 paycheck at the time. So I gave it to him. I go, use it for the light bill. He rejected it. And so that was my first experience into really understanding the cost of electricity. Now, back in 2010, I was a technician at Sprint. I was 20 years old at the time, and I was there for about 3 to 4 years. So from there, I had a customer. He became a regular customer, probably in his late 70s, early 80s by the looks of it. I finally asked him one day, "What do you do?" He goes, "I'm in the energy industry." He goes, "I'm well off. I only work one day out the week because I'm bored." I go, "Huh? What advice would you give somebody my age just starting off?" He said, "Get into renewable energy. That is the way the world's going." So again, this is back in 2010. There was nothing here in the Houston or Texas area about solar energy, very little on anything renewable. So I get online, I find a institution in Colorado. It was about a 2-year program. I didn't know what aspect of renewable or solar I wanted to do. I just figured, maybe get an education would be the best way about it. And from there I could go about it. Thinking back on it, that probably would have led me to being an installer or some kind of project coordinator or, something in that aspect, in the construction side of it. So I decided against it at that time. I just stayed in sales after this Sprint job at the mobile store as a technician. I went over to John Moore Services and a few other places. I was a manager at an auto shop. And so anyways, when this opportunity with SunPro came about, I jumped at it. It sounded everything was intriguing to me. So anyways, going back to 2016. So when I presented this solar to my parents, they were averaging still the $420 in electricity, and they needed a 45 panel system. Now, the numbers made sense. They loved it. They said, "Let's go ahead and do it." So I told them, "You know what? Talk to my brothers and sisters first. I don't want them looking at me sideways," because my dad was about to retire. So they go, "No, we still want to do it." I go, "No, regardless, talk to them. I don't want them to look at me sideways because, this is a big investment regardless." And so sure enough, they did it. They talked to everybody. They decided to move forward with it. Now, the next day, my sister, who's a couple years older than me, gave me a call. And she said, "You know what? Let's go ahead and do it for our house as well." Now, the situation with my sister's house is they purchased their home back in 2015. They were in their home for about 3 months when I told them about solar. They were at that time, the first 3 months light bill was about $40. It was back in March. I remember that. And so I presented the option of 18 panels because they had a limited roof space. So their monthly payments, I believe at that time, were like $140. They decided against it because they were like, "We pay so low for energy right now." And so they were on a tier level plan where they were getting, credits by 500, 1,000 kilowatts. And, it'll vary from that aspect of it. So a year later, fast forward to the conversation with my parents, they actually averaged $146 a month with the light company. So it's pretty funny. They decided to go ahead and go with the 18 panels. 4 or 5 years later, they actually paid off their system. And so, I'm the third person now in my family with a solar system. Obviously, I have my other sisters who referred me, their family and their friends as well. And their friends referred me as friends. Majority of my business is referred based at this point, just because of the reputation and, the experience homeowners have already had. And so, that's a little backstory of how my family's went solar, how I helped them go solar as well. Now, I've done a few of these podcasts. A few actually was recently a guest on a FM radio show, which was awesome as well. And one of the biggest questions homeowners ask is, what is the misconception, or, where are people with solar that just don't want to do it? So I finally realized the best way to answer that is that most people misinterpret the term of off-grid with net zero. Now, net zero, what that means is that you're self-sufficient, you produce enough power to cover your consumption. Now, you're still going to have a relationship with the utility company through the net metering program. The net metering program allows you to sell energy back in a form of a credit for your surplus production at the end of the month. Now, these credits do roll over every single month, and they do roll over year after year, because you are signing about still a 24-month term with these utility companies who are going to buy this energy back from you. Now, the other thing is, it's not an investment type where you're going to get money back from the utility company. We don't design the system that way, so don't expect money back. It's a credit that you're going to get because you designed the system for your average. Understand that, you may use 2,000 kilowatts 3-4 months out the year. You use 1,000 kilowatts the rest of the year. And so your average is 1,500 kilowatts. We design it for 1,500. So those months that you use less than 1,500 kilowatts, you're building up credits for those months that you use more than, 1,500. And so, that's the best way to understand how solar works. And that's all done through the net metering program that allowed the investment of going solar to drop dramatically. Then they introduced the tax credits as well. So it's now officially cheaper to go solar monthly since rates have increased. Now, 2 years ago, rates were averaging about 10 to 12, 13 cents a kilowatt. That's with all fees included, which we'll go back in another day and talk about how you guys are actually buying electricity, where most homeowners don't understand how the grid actually operates. And we're going to go more in depth into that as well. And so where do you start when you want to go solar is usually the next thing you want to consider. Well, obviously, you want to make sure that your home is qualified for going solar. Things that play a huge role are the condition of the roof, the age of the home, the efficiency of the home, how many people live in the home, the type of electronics, the lifestyle habits. No home is going to go with the same size system. So when people say, how much is solar, you could tell them 10,000, 15,000, 20,000. You're not right, but you're not wrong either, because it can be for some and it could be more for others depending on their consumption. Now, for the people that want to consider going solar, the first thing you want to know, if you've been in the home for a little while, is your annual consumption. Now, for homeowners who haven't been into the home, you could go with starter pack systems. It is a plug and play system. So as your usage increase, or a year later, after you have a more of an understanding of how much energy you're consuming, you can always add more panels whenever you need them, because you cannot buy them, you cannot return them if you don't need them. That's a way solar works. And now when you go online and you see all these things that says, homeowners are getting paid to go solar or zero out of pocket, what they're talking about, most of these financing companies do give you the option to go solar for zero down upfront costs. Now, the solar energy is free. The equipment is what you're purchasing. Now, there's two ways that you could go solar. Well, actually three, I should say. The first one is obviously purchasing and financing your system. Now, majority of the homeowners decide to finance it because you treat it like your light bill, while some homeowners do have the luxury of paying cash for their system. Either way, the numbers do not change much. And then you have options as well as leasing. Now, I have never personally done a lease. I don't really understand why homeowners would do leases. We will have some people here to talk about the leases and see if they could change my mind on that for those homeowners who aren't interested in leasing their systems. And you also have, solar co-ops where there's these utility companies doing solar on a utility scale with these solar farms. And they're actually going to get these tax incentives. They're going to sell you this clean energy at a premium rate while you continue paying their electricity and paying off their equipment. So we're going to go solar one way or another. However you go about it, it's going to be the way you go about it. So that's pretty interesting. That's some stuff that a lot of homeowners are not aware of. So, the hardest question for people to answer is, how much is it? Because, it's not like you could say car 10,000 or, this exotic brand for X amount of dollars. You know, there is tiers to the equipment that you're using. There's different type of equipment as far as inverters. Not all companies offer the same type of warranties as well. Majority of the manufacturers all offer a 25-year labor warranty through them. Not the installer may not honor a labor warranty. So that is something that you definitely want to take a look at and consider. Now, obviously, we wanted you guys to get involved, so let us know your questions, anything that you want to know about solar. We're looking forward to really getting you guys involved as well and keeping you updated with what's going on with the renewable energy plan here in the greater Houston area, the Gulf states, in the East and the West Coast as well. We're going to have segments talking about electric vehicles as well for all you guys out there considering making the switch over to an EV vehicle. We're going to be talking a lot about that as well. Let's check this out, and we'll be back in a few minutes, guys.